Okay, so this is going to be section 3. If you hear a baby, ignore him. Alright, so this is Banking Today, section 3 of Money and Banking. So this is what you're going to write down in the very top box. It says your parents pay the household bills electronically. Your grandmother, however, pays her household bills by putting paper checks in the mail. Each method has its own positive and negative aspects. What are some possible advantages and some disadvantages to each payment method? Well, let's think about it. First of all, many of you probably don't even know how to use a paper check, I'm going to be honest. But with a paper check, think about it this way. You have to mail it, which means it's not going to get to whoever you're paying immediately. It's going to take several days because it has to go through the United States Postal Service mail, and we know how that goes. It's also going to not show up on your account immediately. Okay, so electronically, if you were to pay electronically, that means that it would go through into your account or come out of your account immediately. You would probably have some sort of an idea that it has come out of your total amount of money, but it could take several days to actually fully show up. So you've got some downsides and some good things. Other things with a check, consider that if you're not careful with how much you've actually taken out of your account or how many checks you've written, you could actually overdraft and your check will bounce. So how a bank gets its money. So the major way that banks get its money is through issuing stocks. Most banks are established as part of a corporation. And if you remember what a corporation is from our last section, or our last unit where we talked about business and organizations, a corporation is a form of business organization recognized by law as a separate legal entity. It has all the same rights and responsibilities as an individual, including the right to buy and sell property. So that's how banks are able to, give out loans to people who use that loan as a mortgage for their house. Well, if they do not pay that mortgage, then the house goes into foreclosure, meaning the bank gets control of that house. And so that is also one of the ways that they can retain property. Now, they can also obviously retain property through actual physical locations for their bank. There's two reasons that they can do this. So corporations, they can raise funds by selling stocks, and we talked about what a stock is, and remember that a shareholder is a person who owns a share or shares of stocks in a corporation. And lastly, keep in mind that a corporation is responsible for its debt, but the shareholders are not. So if you own stock in a company and you are technically part of the shareholders, if that company goes out of business, it's not going to fall back on you. It falls back on the owners or the company itself. So moving on. Secondly, if a bank is not a corporation, it could technically be a state-centered bank, and that means that the bank receives its charter from the state in which it operates. You also have consumer and business deposits. So when a bank starts operations, it can accept deposits and pay interest on them. So one of the things that I was always told, from my grandfather, who was very, very good with his money, is that you used to be able to earn interest on your money. So what you would do is you would, house your money in the bank and your savings account, for example, and the longer that you let it sit in there, obviously, you earned interest on there. Well, the interest is just so low nowadays that the best that you could do is probably go to a credit union, and that's the only way that you could really make any kind of decent money off of keeping your money with that bank. Interest rate, it must be competitive. New banks can also offer certificates of deposits or CDs, and that just means it's a receipt showing that an investor has made an interest-bearing loan to a financial institution. Next, fractional reserves expand bank deposits. So banks actually keep some of the deposit or the CD. For example, they might keep $1,000 deposit from a new customer, which is subject to a 20% reserve requirement. The bank is free to lend $800. Now, the reason that is because they've also got to retain some of that money just in case something happens. So the reserve requirement, that's a formula used to compute the amount of a depository institution's required reserves. The banks report its reserves and its demand deposits to the feds regularly. Now, this little video is what we will watch to explain more about this.
If you're like most Americans, you probably have a bank account. Every time you collect a paycheck from your employer, you can put it in the bank for safekeeping. And with millions of Americans putting away millions of dollars, have you ever stopped to wonder, who's paying all these banks to watch over all that money? Well, you are. Handling all of the deposits, withdrawals, and other services banks provide comes at a cost. Banks cover these costs in three primary ways: fees, interchange, and loan interest. Banks can charge customers lots of fees, whether it's for overdraft or late payments, applying for a loan, commission fees, and of course, there are ATM fees. In 2016, Bankrate estimated that consumers paid an average of $4.57 every time they withdrew money from an out-of-network ATM. And in 2015, the three biggest banks in the country made $6 billion from ATM and overdraft fees alone. But one of the biggest fees banks collect is not paid by you, but by the stores you shop at. If you go to your local deli for a sandwich and pay with card, the deli is charged an interchange fee. Some of that fee is paid to the deli's bank, but most of it is paid to your bank. And if stores want to accept debit or credit card payments, they must pay the price of the interchange. When people put money in the bank, it doesn't just sit there waiting for them to take it back out. Banks use this money as a way to make money for themselves by offering loans. When someone wants to buy a home, car, college education, they can go to a bank for a loan, and the bank will charge interest on that loan. Let's say someone needs a sum of money to buy a car. They ask the bank for a loan, and the bank will take money from its customers' deposits to purchase the car. In exchange, that person will have to pay back the bank with 6% interest. This allows the bank to make thousands of dollars in profits. And when you consider that millions of people are taking out bank loans all across the country, that interest on all those individual loans adds up to billions of dollars. Essentially, you're loaning your money to the bank so they can loan it out to other people. But just because the bank is lending your money out doesn't mean you don't have access to it. Banks must meet reserve requirements, an amount of funds the bank sets aside in case an influx of people withdraw money at the same time. Banks aren't investment vehicles, but they are a safe place to keep money easily available for paying bills and for your emergency savings.
All right, so back to this. So you just learned about different banking services. So they offer a variety of services. For example, your checking account or your DDAs, they allow you to make purchases in any amount up to the limit in your deposit. From this account, specifically your checking account, that is where you have a debit card. So if you've ever heard the difference between a debit card and a credit card, a debit card is money taken directly from your checking account, which means it's your money. A credit card, on the other hand, that's when you borrow money from the bank. That is supposed to say bank, and pay back with interest. Now, you've also maybe heard of a savings account. That means that you typically with a savings account, you want to leave that money there because you're trying to grow your savings, okay? So they will actually pay you interest on top of that because they want you to keep your money there, which means that's more money they can loan out. Now, you will also run across fees if you take too much or try to withdraw too much out of your savings account every month. Like I said, that's supposed to be left alone. Now, also, if you might have a smart card that's similar to a credit card, it has a built-in microprocessor. And then lastly, you probably heard of an electric funds transfer. So maybe you have parents who, you have your own checking account, but it's kind of linked to theirs, and they'll say, okay, well, can you go pick this up for me? I'll send you some money, or I'll transfer your money to your account. Okay, that's an electric transfer. Now, like I said, these are where we're going to get into the fees charged by bank. You heard about some of these on the video. ATM fee. If you use an ATM that's owned by your bank, then you don't have to pay a fee. But if you ever come across, you're in a situation where you're trying to get, some money out of the ATM, but there's not a bank of yours that's anywhere near, you will have to use another ATM, and therefore they will charge you fees. Now, it can be typically up to even $4, a lot of money. Low balance fee, some banks require you to keep a certain amount of money in your checking account or your savings account. And typically it's going to be with your savings account. But if it ever goes below a certain amount of money, they may charge you a fee. Monthly maintenance fee, I've seen those on my account several times, but it's like $1, $2 or something. It's not anything crazy. Online bill payment fee, you may have to do that if you're going to pay a bill online. Typically there's like a service fee. And you may or may not have heard of an overdraft fee. If you, like I said, if you have a certain amount of money in your account and you are not keeping up with what's coming out of your account and you mess up and there's no money left, you could actually overdraft and be in the negative, and the banks could charge you money on top of that. A paper statement fee, since everybody is trying to do the whole go green thing, they will try to make sure, will you go paperless, So if you choose to continue to get your paper statement every month, then they will charge you for that. And then lastly, if you ever had to go to the bank teller to deposit money for some reason, even though now, you can always do it on your app, but if you ever have to go to the teller to deposit something, they may even charge you money for a teller visit, so you just have to be cautious of that. All right, rounding out your financial literacy, why you need to save your money. You need to save this money. Like that is going to be your only source of income, your retirement. Think about what you're going to use when you are no longer physically able to work. Are you going to just have a bunch of, where does money come from? Okay, you have to work for this. Money placed in a savings account is not as easy to access, and you're less likely to use it than in a checking account. So that's why we always say it's very smart to go ahead and open a savings account now. One of the things that I actually had requested that my parents and my in-laws do for my son, even though, he's a little baby right now, I still ask that they go ahead and open him a savings account. That way they can deposit money like for birthdays or Christmas. That way when he gets old enough, he'll actually have access to some money. And that's not, again, for him to spend, it's for him to just keep. And so he's got a good account there to help if he never has, any kind of a big issue come up. Pay attention to the details. Consider what bank services you need and what fees you're willing to pay. You need to shop around for banks. Don't just go to the first one up the street and say, all right, I need to get a bank. Okay. Many banks charge fees to maintain their accounts. You also have to make yourself credit worthy. I've told you that there's various ways that you can actually up your credit score. Now, most of you as a high school student, unless you have like a cell phone in your name and you're paying the bills, solely you paying the bills, not your parents, the cell phone has to be in your name, so does the contract. If you have that, then you'll actually start building your credit. Another thing that you can do to build your credit is you can, now I don't recommend any of you really getting a credit card in your high school years. You really don't need that. But if you own a car, if any of your parents have helped you get a car and it's in your name, I also want to say that maybe an apartment, if that's in your name, those are just different ways that help you build your credit score. Okay. Better credit means better interest rates for your future homes, cars, and a better savings account for your retirement. You can also build credit by paying bills on time. Avoid credit card debt. That's very important. I cannot stress that enough. Do not spend money if you do not have it. If you think that, I can charge it and I'll pay for it next month. Golden rule is never charge what you don't have. If you have to charge $500 on your credit card, but you don't currently have $500 to spend on that in your checking account, it's probably not a good idea. You shouldn't do it. Obviously, unless it's an emergency situation, that's typically what they're for. So let me open this video.
Financial freedom comes to the person who actively takes control of their finances. Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and today I want to talk with you about how to begin saving money and take complete control of your financial future. Financial freedom comes to the person who knows how to save 10% or more of his income or her income throughout his or her lifetime. One of the smartest things that you can ever do for yourself is to develop the habit of saving part of your salary every single paycheck. Individuals, families, and even societies are stable and prosperous to the degree to which they save money. Savings today are what guarantee the security and the possibilities of tomorrow. The first corollary of the law of saving and becoming a money-saving expert comes from the book The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. It is to pay yourself first. Begin today to save 10% of your earnings off the top and never touch it. This is your fund for long-term financial accumulation, and you never use it for any other reason except to assure your financial future. The remarkable thing is that when you pay yourself first and force yourself to live on the other 90%, you actually promote frugal living. You'll soon become accustomed to living on 90% without any loss of convenience or anything else. Remember, you're a creature of habit. When you regularly put away 10% of your earnings, you soon become comfortable living on the other 90%. Many people start by saving 10% of their income and then graduate to saving 15%, 20%, and even more. And their financial lives change dramatically as a result, and so will yours. The second corollary of the law of saving and becoming a money-saving expert says, take advantage of tax-deferred earnings and investment plans. Because of high and even multiple tax rates today, money that is saved or invested without being taxed accumulates faster than money that is subject to taxation. Self-made millionaires, according to Dr. Thomas Stanley's book, The Millionaire Next Door, are almost obsessed about accumulating their funds in assets such as real estate, self-owned businesses, and equities that increase in value without triggering tax liabilities. Invest in company pension and retirement plans, 401k plans, Roth IRAs, education investment accounts, stock option programs, and whatever else has been approved by the IRS for long-term financial accumulation. Make every dollar count. I'd like to share with you 2 tactics you can begin to implement immediately in your life today in order to start accumulating more wealth. First, begin to put away 10% of your earnings. Set up a special account for this purpose and treat your contributions to this account with the same respect that you do your rent or mortgage payments each month. Second, become a lifelong student of how to save and accumulate money. Read the best books, take courses, and subscribe to the most helpful magazines. Know what you are doing so you can always make intelligent decisions when you invest your funds. Before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a thought to share with your friends and followers. Financial freedom comes to the person who actively takes control of their finances. Now, I'd love to hear from you. So my question today is this: what are you going to begin doing today to start saving more money for your future? Leave a comment below and I'll be sure to follow up with you. Thanks for watching. And remember, if you want to change your future, take action and take action now. Discover the 5 reasons why most people don't become wealthy.
All right, and that is it.